Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining to Hull and Back, doubling as to Qatar and back for the month. We're proudly sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar in Hull, and there's a very exciting competition going on there at the moment. That if you buy a drink or you go to Pearson's Bar in Hull, they'll enter you for a competition where you can win England tickets for the World Cup. And as Will is rightly pointing out there, we're going to mention it. We are an award-winning podcast. Thank you very much to everyone who voted for the Football Content Awards 2022 final, where we were very happy to bring home a bronze award. And we've got some great guests. We've got the usual Will, and then we've got AD Wright from the great community radio station West Hull FM 106.9 FM, and they're our new radio partner. So we scratch your back, you scratch ours, that sort of thing. And you're the presenter of Tiger Pop. So AD, thanks for joining us. What's Tiger Pop all about?
Evening. Thanks for having me, Nathaniel. Good to see you again, and good to see you other guys. What's Tiger Pop all about? Well, it's probably a bit like you guys, but on the radio, we basically talk all things Hull City on a Saturday on West Hull FM from 1 o'clock, but not this Saturday because Hull City aren't playing. So what I've done is I took the executive decision to have a few weeks off while the World Cup's on, and then come back on December the 10th, just in time for Hull City's next game, which is on the 11th.
Very good.
So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, and I had a lovely time at West Hull FM doing a summer placement. It was a lovely time. Thanks for having me on the show and the station. So do go and listen to West Hull FM 106.9 FM. They do all sorts of shows. And then,
we loved having you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Did you want to add something, Will? Because you're doing some work with them as well, aren't you?
Yeah. Thank you, Eddie, for giving me a job.
You're welcome, Will.
You're not going to say what that is? I'll say. You're doing some of the press conferences, aren't you? Or you're doing...
I work for West Hull FM doing the press and media, essentially.
Yeah.
So if you see any updates through their socials for about the City games, it's probably me chatting a load of rambles. But I usually go in the press conferences, get all the info from them as well for Eddie to then put into the shows every week.
What we do, Nathaniel, is we stick Will right up at the top of the West Stand where it's
freezing cold,
absolutely freezing, and let him sit there and freeze. And we watch it in the East Stand in the comfort and real nice warm. It's good, isn't it?
Delightful. Delightful. And we've got another great guest, Gabe Sutton of EFL Debate. Thank you very much for coming on. I've enjoyed being on some of your shows already. What's your deal?
What's my deal?
Well, tell us about EFL Debate and other things.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Good to see you again, mate. I normally have Anton, so more recently, so it's nice to catch up with you. But no, I think it's so EFL Debate. I talk to various different players, managers, owners, directors, pretty much you name it. Across the EFL, various different topics. I've had some really good interviews, some really fun chats as well. So if you're into the EFL and talking about the championship or either of the divisions below it, then you can follow the hashtag EFL Debate, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Gab Sutton.
Very good. That was very professional. So, yeah, as you mentioned, it's the World Cup. I don't want us to get a copyright strike, so I won't play It's Coming Home, and I won't sing it either. But AD...
That's the whole reason I was coming on that.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, you can leave. AD, is it coming home?
Is it coming home? Probably not, Nathaniel. I'm a realist, Nathaniel, and I think it could do just because of the strange circumstances that we're in. Do I think that this team's strong enough? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the team that he picks is strong enough to bring it home, to be quite honest with you. That's my view. Shoot me down if you really want to. I'm sure there's a way of getting in touch with this podcast. And if you want to shoot me down, you can do. But I'd be very surprised if it does. It'd be great, wouldn't it, if it did? And great to do it at the same year as the Lionesses have done it, So, yeah, I'd love it to come home. Do I think it's coming home? No.
Yeah, okay, so very negative. Gabe, what's your view on the England squad and England's chances after the first match now?
Well, I think I take a lot of encouragement from the performance against Iran. I should say, on a broader point, before the first game of the tournament,
Mm.
I was planning to boycott the World Cup entirely. And then it got to the game against, for obvious reasons. And it got to the game against Iran, and my willpower just completely crumbled because I felt like I can't miss England playing at a World Cup. So I've not been watching sort of the World Cup in its broader sense, but the England games I think I might weaken on just because of the temptation. And yeah, lots of encouragement from the performance against Iran. Jude Bellingham was immense. Saka was amazing. The system seems to be working well. There's a lot of fluency in the performance. And you look at some of the other results that have happened. Argentina sort of being beaten by Saudi Arabia, Germany being beaten by Japan. It shows that maybe England thrashing Iran wasn't the given that perhaps some people suggest it was. And obviously not following the World Cup comprehensively, but the impression is that pretty much just us and France that have turned up so far. So I think the early evidence is that we've got a really good chance. We've got a really good squad. I believe we've got a really good manager. So yeah, let's hope the boys do it.
Yeah, that's more like it, Gabe. I like it. So yeah, on the last episode, I predicted, or I thought England should go with a back five. Because I thought, it's tournament football, that's how you win. You grind out these 1-0 games. But I was very surprised England went with a 4-3-3, letting Bellingham run forward a bit more in attack. So, Will, just how surprised were you with the lineup? Because personally, I was very shocked.
Well, I was very happy that he picked the formation that I think me and I picked in the predictions with you last week. But I think the only change from the team was we both had James Maddison in, but obviously he couldn't really play. But I was very happy to see we were playing a back four because Southgate in recent years has been so reliant on keeping his defence protected with playing two holding midfielders in front of that back three. So it was nice it was refreshing because England in World Cups, at least in my lifetime, their opening games have almost always been very cautious, very close-fought matches. Never really that good to watch, to be quite frankly. So it was a very nice change of pace from Southgate in his recent times, and I hope it continues because you could clearly see it. I know it's obviously you can make the case it's only Iran, which is, I suppose, to a point fair, but they are in the top 20 in the world. But it's a good side. You'd rather win like that than win 1-0, but simply put, there's nothing wrong with winning so convincingly, despite what other people might think.
I think a lot of fans would also say they'd rather lose playing like that, where they're trying to win rather than, I think the biggest criticism, because I respect Southgate as a man and a manager. I think he's done a terrific job. I'll keep saying it throughout the month. I really like him, although I think maybe he should probably go, if not at this tournament, maybe after the next one, but that's getting ahead. I'm quite surprised that he went with an attacking formation, but I've lost my train of thought. I don't know what the question was going to be.
I think one thing I wanted to bring up on the Southgate conversation is I think it's very easy to sort of look at it and say in big games like Croatia in 2018 and like Italy in 2021, Southgate's in-game management wasn't great, and maybe with a world-class manager, things could have been different. But at the same time, I look at it and I maybe question how much international management appeals to the real elite top-level managers who are at the peak of their careers. Maybe some of the older managers who want to spend a bit more time with their families, it'll appeal to. But I think the best managers probably want a bit more of the day-to-day stuff that you'd get at club level. And I think for me as an England fan, has Southgate been absolutely perfect? No, I don't think he has. But at the same time, he's got the best record as England manager, barring Alf Ramsey, getting to a semi-final of the World Cup and a final of the Euros is far, far better than what we've achieved previously. And we can say, yes, we should have done that. We should have beaten this team. We should have beaten that team. But in previous years, we haven't beaten those teams. I think Southgate's transformed the culture of England. He's created that perfect balance of making players feel comfortable and secure, but also not being someone who can be easily messed around and got around. So he's been that halfway house, which we've missed because previous England managers have been too far, sort of either side of the extreme. So I'd consider myself a very big Southgate fan. Would I be open-minded about change in a few years when the right manager comes along? Yes, I would. But at the same time, I'm very happy to support Gareth Southgate for where we are now.
AD, what are your general thoughts on Southgate over the last few years?
Well, I think after the Nations, I'd have probably got rid of him. But you are right in what you say, Gabe, in the case that he has galvanised the squad. The squad seem to want to play for him. He seems to have all the players together, even though they're playing for different clubs, and there used to be a bit of a divide there. So I think he's doing some good things, and I think we've got to hold judgment until the end of this World Cup and see how well he does at this, And as we said, the first game was Iran. The next game's the USA. The next game's Wales. He's not got a lot to do to get out of the group, has he? So it's when he gets out of the group, what he does from there. I think that's where you've got to judge him and see if he's got the players. And was the Nations League just a friendly thing that he was playing to get the players fit, to get the players together? That's how he seemed to play it, although it didn't work. So he's got, let's hope that what he's done in there is learnt enough to progress into the group stages and maybe further in the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I'd put, how much I'd think about the Nations League and how that translates to a tournament, because, I mean, the Nations League is basically the replacement for lots of international friendlies, and those friendlies are for fitness and to learn about your team. So I guess the Nations League is similar. Plus, I mean, I don't know what everyone's thoughts on, just even here or, in the wider world about how much people actually care about the Nations League. But I didn't even know who'd won the last one. That was only a year ago.
I wouldn't know.
It was France. It was France.
I almost wonder, is there a winner of the Nations League?
Because we did qualify for the first finals.
Yes, we got to the semi-final. We have a third place finish in the Nations League, and then we've been relegated now. But yeah, as you mentioned, AD, it's about what happens once England get past the group. So, Will, do you think it's a case that we'll play 4-3-3 and attacking football to get out the group, build that confidence? And do you think he will switch to a back five? Maybe not the round of 16 if it's Senegal or a weaker team, but if we play France in the quarterfinal, who've looked very good in their game against Australia, do you think he should switch to a back five?
I think, simply put, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you're winning all these games playing that formation, why would you then change to a more defensive formation when you're using all your big strengths, which is your attack? And I mean, just look at the way that formation is suited for what I think is our most promising player at the moment, that started anyway, which is Jude Bellingham. He's perfect in the way that we're playing at the moment, and he's someone who we should be building the team around. But him and Foden, but Foden didn't start. I don't know why he didn't start, but that's another thing altogether. But these are people, you want to be playing football that plays to their strengths. Our big strengths as a team has been attacking. I know he wants to be cautious and cover up our weaknesses, but I'd rather, as we said before, I'd rather the team win 4-3 than 1-0.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if we're playing that well, especially with how there's a lot of concerns over the defence, it makes more sense to try and outscore the opposition, and you don't want to switch anything up. There's been little time to train for this tournament. So, as I was saying, I think I thought we were going to play a back five against the bigger teams later on. Makes sense to keep that, but if it's worked so well as a 4-3-3 already.
Well, can I just suggest another thing as well, Nat, which is, do you like Nate or Nat, or is it just Nathaniel? Or
Nathaniel, or Lord Supreme Host as well.
Lord Supreme Host.
That's never happening.
I think Nathaniel. There's kind of a moderate solution, which would be maybe dropping Declan Rice a little bit deeper, because Declan Rice is someone who can play as a holding midfielder or as a centre half. So I think if you get to the knockout rounds, there's the option of just having Declan Rice's emphasis on sometimes dropping into the defence when a Luke Shaw or a Kyle Walker sort of gets forward. So that would be how I would look at it, because I'd probably be, I think if we played a back four against France or something, I'd maybe be a bit worried about Harry Maguire
Kylian
getting
Mbappe.
into one-on-one.
Yeah.
But I think if we drop Declan Rice kind of dropping in, then I think that mitigates that a little bit, and we can still play with the 4-3-3 that worked so well against Iran, and hopefully will do in the other group games.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned Kyle Walker there. I mean, he's a shoo-in. Anytime he's fit, he should play for England at a tournament, and perhaps because he's injured.
Well, I disagree there straight away.
Oh, go on, Will.
I think Kieran Trippier is a better all-round fullback than
Trippier,
Kyle Walker, personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I was thinking
But
that
that's just me.
Walker would play.
Kyle Walker is a very good player, but I just think based on form as well,
Yeah.
Kieran Trippier has to be the right back for England.
I think if you're playing with a 5, you've got to put Kyle Walker in that team, haven't you?
Yeah, as the right-sided centre back, maybe.
Yeah,
for the pace alone.
Yeah, definitely, because he can get back, can't he? And that's a thing that, as we've sort of alluded to already, somebody needs to be able to get back, don't they?
I think the other thing that comes into this conversation there is, I think if you're looking at who the best players have been in the Premier League during Gareth Southgate's tenure, listen, Kieran Trippier done well for Newcastle. He's won Liga, I think, with Atletico Madrid. But probably on paper, you would say Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think the issue that you have is that so many people kind of judge Southgate negatively when he doesn't pick players that are really bossing it domestically in the
Jim Madison.
But I think that sometimes there's something to be said for whether they fit into the group dynamic that you're trying to create, whether they have a good relationship with the manager. I think, whether they fit stylistically into what you're trying to do, because it's not just a best 11, a best 11 English players. It's, who makes the best team. And I think these are the difficult decisions that Gareth Southgate's got to make. And not everyone's always going to agree with them. But it's about what's for the best of the team and not for, who are the most standing out individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, I don't think we've talked about it quite enough. England scored 6 goals. It was a great performance. I was shocked at how well we were playing, controlling the ball. We had a lot of the possession as well, which I assumed we would. But I was surprised at just how well we kept winning it back as well. I thought Declan Rice played well. You've rightly mentioned Jude Bellingham had a fantastic game. As a 19-year-old for England, scoring the first goal at a World Cup.
And he's filled out a lot over the last couple of years as well, hasn't he? So you add that to, the skill that he's got, a few really swish back heels that he plays with a real swagger that you don't actually, I think you want to see that bit of personality from an England player. You don't want too many players. So, Declan Rice is one of those players who, you tell them to do something, that'll do it. I would say Mason Mount, fantastic athlete, fantastic runner. He's got ability as well. But not to say Jude Bellingham isn't incredibly hardworking as well, but he's got that bit of individual swagger about him as well that just brings a different dimension. And I think, this World Cup could be to Jude Bellingham what the 98 World Cup was to Michael Owen. I think he could be a real breakout star of the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be good. And I saw a lot of criticism, a lot of joking about Birmingham City retiring whatever number Bellingham had.
I hated retiring.
Oh no, that's still a bad. I still think that was a stupid idea.
Oh yeah, even if Jude Bellingham goes on to become the best player in the world, I'd still disagree with retiring the shirt because I just think it doesn't sit well with me.
It's a little bit more understandable, though, seeing how good he's been, I guess.
No, but
it's still
retire a shirt for someone who, like Man City retired the shirt number for Mark Vivian Foe, for example. And that's a far more emotive circumstance than someone who goes on to be brilliant from a footballing perspective. So, I just think keep this. Don't ban the shirt number. It just seems ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, as the EFL expert, I'll agree with you on that. So, AD,
if I wasn't the EFL expert, you wouldn't agree with me on it.
No, but it would make it more.
Challenge him, Gabe.
It's made it more difficult for me to disagree with you because of your position as, god of the English Football League. So, AD, how nice was it to see Bukayo Saka score 2 goals, especially as, just a year ago, he suffered all that abuse after the Euro final?
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant to see him do that. And, how well has he come on? Arteta's got to have a big sort of pat on the back for that, because I think he's brought him on really well. He's come from under Pep, and you can tell that he's come from under Pep because how good he's been this season for Arsenal. I don't like Arsenal, believe me, because they beat us in the FA Cup, and I don't like that. But, I think they've got the best chance of probably winning the league this season that they've had for a long time under him. And he's done brilliant with Saka. He's put his arm round him. He's sort of give him that license to do what he does best. And you can see that now coming into the England game as well. He seems a lot more relaxed, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think, he scored 2 great goals. I suppose that makes him undroppable. But then Rashford and Grealish scored their first goals at a major tournament, and Sterling at his first at a World Cup. The attacking options we've got are so great. And I guess you can't really drop Sterling or Saka now, but you could start.
I imagine a lot of clubs, countries in the World Cup would love to have someone like Phil Foden or Jack Grealish on the bench.
Yeah.
I think it just shows the depth of options that we've got. But the template against Iran seems to be quite Liverpool-esque in the sense that there was a lot of legs in midfield. Creativity often came from the fullbacks, and then you've got Harry Kane kind of dropping in, and then 2 of the forwards pushing on. So it's very interesting to see that kind of template in action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just want to touch on some of the controversy surrounding the game. Firstly, before the match, a lot of the UEFA teams, the 7 UEFA teams at the tournament, said that they were going to wear the One Love armbands, which is still a bit of a cop-out because it's not a full rainbow to begin with.
Yeah.
And then FIFA said that I think there's a bit of disagreement about what the actual sanctions for wearing one of those armbands as the captain would have been. I think they were under the illusion it was going to be a fine, which they would have happily paid. But then they were talking about a player getting booked if they wore an armband, or even suspended for the next game completely. So, Will, what are your thoughts on that? Because I saw you on Twitter, you were not happy about that.
I think at first I was annoyed by the countries themselves that backed out of it, but the more I think about it, I was annoyed with FIFA as well, but the more I think about it, it's like FIFA are just absolute fucking assholes, aren't they?
Well
we
said.
already knew that anyway, but obviously all these nations had said a long time ago, we're going to do this. If you're going to punish us, that's fine. They'll wait till the day of the first game to say, right, we'll book one of your players. And while I think it's one of those things where I'm like, well, just swap the captaincy every game with other players so no one actually gets a possible suspension in that way. But it's sort of a risk you can't really take, especially if it's with Harry Kane obviously being a striker, it's a bit less likely, I suppose, that he'd get booked. But people like Virgil van Dijk of the Netherlands, he's a central defender. He can't risk starting a game and being on 90 minutes with a yellow card straight off the bat. So I can understand why a lot of those teams were a bit hesitant to come out of it. But really, no one comes out of this looking good. But as always, the people that come looking out of it looking bad the most is FIFA.
Absolutely.
I think you have to have solidarity, though, don't you? I think if you take that step to do it, and then and then you get sent off because of it, then that's when the big uproar starts to happen.
Yes.
And that's when actually something gets seen of it. And if you do that and that then happens, for me, that would have been the best thing to do. Let somebody get sent off. Let it cause somebody a problem in a game. And then all of a sudden, it's in all of the media everywhere, and you've achieved your goal. But by backing down, you've achieved nothing, have you?
Not yet. I think Manuel Neuer still wore it for the Germans. He still wore it, and he still got the punishment. And what happened is the referee forced him to turn his band around so the One Love wasn't on the top of his sleeve openly seen. But he still got booked for it as well. And I know, obviously, but it's so fucking petty, and it just FIFA, I didn't like them anyway, but every single passing day, it's like, how can you make yourselves look even worse?
Yeah, it's like a competition. They want to look as bad as possible, and even so, I think Denmark have started a campaign to leave FIFA.
Denmark's kit obviously was. I don't know if anyone's seen it. All their kits are like the logos on all their kits are completely blank, so you can't see. It's just like a blackout kit you would get from a team.
Yeah.
It's like obviously they're all red, all white. That was an anti sort of Qatar thing. So they forced them to stick a big Denmark flag on the middle of their kits to show that, just sort of like to completely defeat the purpose of it.
Yeah. I think if FIFA are corrupt and the countries playing in the tournaments don't like it, then surely it can't be that difficult to organise a better organisation for world football, because the corruption's so, endemic now.
Can we stop being depressing?
All right. Well, let's stop being depressing and talk about let's talk about VAR. That'll cheer us all up.
Oh, fuck.
So Maguire had a stonewall penalty, in my opinion, as an Englishman, sports football, ruled out. And then, of course, it was probably still a foul, but quite a soft penalty for Iran.
I think both are penalties.
Yeah, both are penalties, but the fact England didn't get one for the first half, Maguire got dragged down. So, Gabe, as an EFL expert, what's your opinion on VAR?
I love the fact that the leagues that I follow don't have VAR in them.
Agreed.
I think it's an absolute blessing.
Here.
I absolutely despise VAR. I think that it ruins the pure concept of football. The whole idea of football is the joy that happens when you score a goal and the ball goes into the net, and the idea of taking that joy, that instant moment of spontaneity and joy, away by the whole mathematics of getting the decision absolutely right, I think is wrong for football. Obviously, it's not as big as some of the moral issues that we've just touched on, and obviously got a lot of thoughts on that as well. But I think in terms of VAR, I'm certainly not a fan.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't remember what it was like other than Hull, but Hull never score. What it's like to I can't remember what it's like to watch a goal for England or a Premier League and be like, oh, that's exciting, and then not have to think about whether it will be given or not.
And the other thing with VAR is, do you trust Championship referees to use VAR correctly?
No.
Considering most of the refs can't.
Yeah. I mean, the refereeing...
Give me bad referees over VAR.
Well, we've had plenty of them at the MKM this season, so...
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal would be better training for referees.
That's it. The referees need...
Yeah, but there's not been enough investment into refereeing courses from the FA. So
it's that thing that's been said for years, isn't it? Unfortunately, there's no consistency, and VAR's exactly the same. There's no consistency with VAR, and if you can't have consistency in that, then what's the point in having it?
Yeah, the offsides are so frustrating as well. How you can be an inch offside, your legs can be onside, and your shoulder, which you wouldn't score with, it is offside, and it's disallowed. Well, it's so frustrating.
On the Maguire penalty, I think the thing that sort of sealed it for me was the day after when Argentina played Saudi Arabia, and Argentina got a penalty very near the start, which was almost almost the same type of foul that Maguire was fouled on, and he said that was given as a penalty, but ours wasn't. And
that's the thing, innit? You've got to have some consistency there, especially if you're using video technology to give you to get you the right decision. You've got to make the right decision. You can't not make the right decision. You've got to get that decision right, and it should be easy with the video, shouldn't it?
It should be easy, but clearly it isn't. I wasn't really listening to all of that, but I hope that makes sense. But what else can we move on to? Well, England won, and the game tomorrow night at 7 on ITV, although other TV stations...
Is the episode already there?
Well, I mean, I do say good evening at the start of every podcast, even though most people don't listen to it or watch it in the evening. So what are our chances against America? Because some of us have seen the Wales-America game, or USA. I thought USA were very good in the first half, and then Wales put them under just a bit of pressure and they didn't exactly crumble, but they didn't play well in the second half. So I think England, especially with an attacking 4-3-3 system, have got a good chance. So Gabe, how do you see this going tomorrow night?
Well, I've not had a chance to get my eyes on any teams other than England so far, so it's difficult for me to comment on the US. But I think for me, I feel really optimistic about this England team, and I think if we can keep the synergy of the performance that was so encouraging against Iran, then I think we've got a really good chance against anyone.
What about you, Will?
I do feel a lot more confident because of the second half of the Wales-USA game, because at half-time I was like, this USA side looked good, but Wales hadn't really done anything at all. In that first half, Wales were appalling, let's be honest. But the second half, the moment they brought on Kiefer Moore, and the moment they put any sort of pressure on the USA side, that defence suddenly looked very old, because they are a very old defence. Their centre-back pairings are both very old. So what I can see, if you've got players like Saka and Sterling and Grealish and Foden and all these pacey attackers attacking the USA defence, it could be very interesting. Going to our defence as we always do, it's always unsure because the way that they played going forward, they did like to press a lot. So if you're going, I can see them try, like Iran did at times when they actually get the ball. If the press on our defence, it might crumble a tiny bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. It's going to be an interesting one, I think, is the best way to put it. I think we should be all right, but that sort of Jekyll and Hyde performance from the USA, kind of, you don't know exactly what you're going to get from them really now.
Yeah, well, I think both America and Wales didn't play well in parts of that game, and England have certainly got the quality to get past America and Wales, I think. And hopefully England, if results go well enough, early tomorrow, is at 10 o'clock, the Wales-Iran game, and that's a draw.
Yeah, they kick off, yeah.
And when England win, then they've qualified top of the group, and the third game against Wales maybe can rest a few players, and because they'll be top of the group. So, AD, I don't know if you were talking whilst I was out the room, but what are your thoughts on it?
No, well, I think that you're probably going to disagree with me, but a draw's good enough tomorrow night.
Boo!
That's all right. Boo me. Right, listen, a draw's good enough tomorrow night because what I want to do,
win or bust.
I want to beat Wales really a lot of points. You know, I want to score 7 past them because we scored 6 past Iran. So I want 7 past Wales. So if we only draw tomorrow night, then I'm not bothered. I'm quite happy with that. Let's do that, and then let's go beat Wales 7-0.
I don't know. I think we need to make up for 2010 when we had a shocker against the USA.
Yeah, I mean,
and 1950 as well, for those who can remember that.
I suppose there's a lot.
What is that like, Addy?
Not even me, Will. Not even me.
I suppose the English-speaking world on Twitter are more accessible to me, so I'm probably able to annoy more Americans and Welsh people if we beat them. So yeah, seeing, and yeah, we want a bit of revenge for Rob Green, solidarity with Rob Green, right? So we do want to beat America and Wales, but I've got a few Welsh friends, so I can lord it over them if we do score 7. That'd be marvellous. So,
would you take? Nathaniel, would you take a draw tomorrow and then a 7-0 win against Wales?
Oh, 100%.
If you can guarantee that, I'd take it.
If you could guarantee it, but I think that we've got a decent chance of winning both games anyway.
Not saying we aren't. I'm not saying we aren't either, but I think we have got a good chance of beating the USA, and I think there's a good chance we can turn them over as well. But yeah, I definitely want us to beat Wales because that, as you say, you can gloat to the people that that are Welsh. It's great.
Absolutely. And another good thing that happened after the England-Iran game, of course, there was the Harry Kane injury. Yeah, he came off and they had a scan, but apparently he's good to play tomorrow, or at least
Same with Maguire as well. Apparently he's also going to be okay for tomorrow. Who went off ill in the second half.
So those are good boosts because you don't want the top goal scorer at the last World Cup, Harry Kane, to be injured.
To be fair, when he came on, Callum Wilson did look a handful as well, so I wouldn't be too upset if Kane had been missing for a game.
game or maybe even two if we because we do have quality, but you don't want him to be out for the whole World
Of
Cup
course
and
not.
the major games, because I know he didn't score, but he still played really well. Got 2 assists, created 2 goals, which is important. And I don't know whether Wilson or Rashford playing in the middle has that same kind of passing ability that Kane does. So just how important is Sir Harold Kane, as I call him, to England, Gabe?
Well, I was just wondering on that, Nathaniel, whether if you had to operate without Harry Kane, would that change your thinking with some of the wide forward positions? Would you go with maybe a Foden over a Saka, so that you've got a bit more of the creative element, someone who can pick a through ball in sort of the sort of narrower central between the lines type thing? Because although Saka, I think, has really good feet and he showed lovely composure for his goal on in the second half against Iran, I also think that Foden probably gives you something a little bit different. So if you've got Callum Wilson, that's the one running in beyond, you'd also kind of want Foden dropping into pockets and then South Sterling running beyond. So I think the general principle is you want 2 players who can get in beyond, who've got pace, and 1 player who can kind of drop in and bring that creative element. So maybe I'd look at having Foden instead of Saka if we had to play Wilson instead of Kane.
Yeah.
My temptation would be to instead of playing it, I know I've just praised Wilson, but my temptation would be if Kane can play someone like, because he likes to come in deep, he likes to be in the midfield, kind of as a false 9. I'd be tempted to play someone like Foden as that main man up front and have him, because he drops deep all the time, because it just adds to it keeps the creativity going.
Well, I think Foden's probably been one of the players last season for Man City when they had no striker.
The other options, obviously, Grealish or Maddison as well. Either any of them 3. Just playing as a false 9.
But also Raheem Sterling, like, he showed good striker's instinct for the goal just before half time against Iran as well. So he could possibly sort of become a bit like a striker at times. So I think that's a good option. I think that Will suggested Saka, Foden and Sterling. That could work as well.
I think, any of the 3 Man City forwards who were there last season, including Sterling, Grealish and Foden as well, I think they played false 9 last year, along with De Bruyne.
It seems like Grealish as an option from the bench. I'm not sure.
I do like him as a bench option, because he can sort of pull the defence all over the place when they're a bit more tired.
And then he's another one that's got that swagger about his game as well. And he's a fantastic ball carrier, isn't he? And he showed really good awareness as well to peel off the defender for that last goal and sort of slot it in rather than just attack the space. It's actually thinking, oh, hang on, can pull back here. So good movement from him. I think Southgate seems to like him as an option from the bench. So and he's a Villa player, so I should hate him, but I do kind of love Jack Grealish. So it's a torn one, but I do love him.
Well, to go back to a question, Gabe, about what I'd do if Kane wasn't playing. I mean, last week's episode, I said that England should go with a back 5, and we did have Kane fit, so I guess I'd play a back 6. Just to make sure we don't concede any. Hope someone scores, off their shin or something.
Why must you play the most boring football?
I mean, I'd have inverted wing backs though to spice things up, but in a back 6.
In Football Manager.
So I guess we'll do a little bit more about England and just maybe score predictions for the game tomorrow, and then we can touch on some of the big shocks of the World Cup. So I'm going to go a confident. Before the tournament started, I predicted 2-1. I'm still not confident about the defence, but I think we'll score a lot. So I'm going to go 3-1 England. What about you, Will?
3-0 England.
3-0 England. That sounds good. I'd be happy with that. What about you, Adi?
I'm going with your original prediction, Nathaniel, of 2-1.
I'm going to go with your current prediction. I'm going to say 3-1.
Right. Well, that's 4 England wins then. So I think we're all quite confident about our chances. And I'm not impressed with that Ant comment there. Nathaniel out. That's very hurtful. But shall we move on, and we'll use our non-England correspondent, Will Young, tell us about the Saudi Arabia-Argentina match.
I can go through all of the World Cup if you want, but I mean,
all right, 10 seconds on each game. How about that?
I can do that quick. I can do it very quick, easy. Okay,
Oh, no,
Qatar 0, Ecuador 2. It was shit. Qatar was shit. Ecuador were comfortable winners. Senegal 0, Netherlands 2. It was a very tight game. The Netherlands looked like the better side, and then eventually they managed to break through with Gakpo and Klaassen. Is that fast enough for you?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, then. We've already talked about England around United States, Wales. But here we go. Argentina 1, Saudi Arabia 2. Fuck Argentina. Saudi Arabia are awesome. Aldaswari over Lionel Messi any fucking day. Mexico, Poland 0-0. It was shit. Denmark, Tunisia 0-0. It was shit.
Yeah.
Conrad Cornelius had the miss of the tournament. France 4, Australia 1. I was very, very happy for Australia at the start, and then France turned into France. Germany 1, Japan 2.
Appropriate. Ha ha ha.
Spain 7, Costa Rica 0. Spain looked all right.
It was a tight, nervy game until the latter stages.
Morocco 0, Croatia 0. Again, it's another 0-0. What, are you surprised?
Boring.
Belgium 1, Canada 0. The biggest screwed up on the Canadians possible. Switzerland 1, Cameroon 0. I didn't actually see this one.
Well, Mbolo didn't celebrate against a different team at the World Cup because he was born there. Now, I understand clubs, and I guess, to be honest, if you're born in Cameroon and you score against them in the World Cup, that's a big thing. But I feel like that's something that, like football cliches on Twitter, they talk about things. Not celebrating against a team at a World Cup because you've scored.
Because it's so rare, the idea of it.
Is that odd? Gabe, is that odd? Or am I being insensitive and a big bigot?
That's well, you're always being a big bigot, so that's kind of really that's beside the point. What would I say? I think it depends. It's such a personal, subjective thing that I don't think you can make sort of blanket laws over whether it's right to celebrate against another country or not. I think it's such a personal thing that it's difficult to say on anything other than a case by case basis, really.
So is that a no?
I've still got games.
You've got to take it on a case by case basis. So you're not going to get me into a binary answer, Nathaniel. So
I say yes. Okay.
You don't live in your black and white world. Life is much more nuanced and complicated than you're making.
Keep going, Will.
Brazil, Serbia. Brazil win 2-0. Richarlison's like the greatest striker that's ever existed, and Brazil look like Brazil again. Uruguay, South Korea. Genuinely the worst match I may have ever seen. Portugal, Ghana. Oh, fuck off, Ronaldo. There you go. That's my review of every game.
Well, that was Will Young, our non-England correspondent there. That's very good.
Can we go back to Argentina, Saudi Arabia, because it was one of the best things I've watched for so long.
That's the big one. And along with the Germany-Japan game, which is a less big surprise. But
that one's kind of been glossed over a little bit, to be honest, because Japan were fantastic in the second half.
But I think the most shocking thing about those games is, both penalties, but the better teams on paper score first, and you think, with that sort of shock, you'd expect them to keep it tight, maybe get a late goal, but to come back with some two great finishes or four great finishes from both teams was a big surprise that they could come round again.
The Argentina one was very, very interesting because the first half, Messi scored a penalty early on. And for the entire first half, pretty much Argentina just pelted Saudi Arabia for the entire thing. They had 3 goals disallowed and they were all rightly disallowed for offside. But they'd absolutely just tore them to pieces. And then at half time, I don't know what changed, but at half time, I think there was a couple like real proper hard fair challenges went in that Saudis did on a couple of the Argies, and it seemed to sort of turn it a bit. And I don't know what it was, but as soon as Saudi Arabia started actually pushing Argentina, they seemed very scared, and it was delightful to watch.
Yeah,
because normally in the past it's been like us that have done that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I think I predicted Argentina to win the World Cup. I think you did too, Will. Yeah, so. AD, I'll go with you first. What was your prediction for the winners, and if it was Argentina or Germany, has that changed?
I wouldn't have picked either Argentina or Germany, to be quite honest with you. I'd probably gone with, I don't know, maybe Spain would have been my prediction beforehand, and it doesn't look bad at the moment. But they did only play they did only play Costa Rica, didn't they? So I'd like to see England win it, as I've said previously. But whether England can win it or not, I don't know. It's one of them. Let's hope that England can, but if not, I think it could be Spain. Can I ask you, Nathaniel? Can I just ask you before we go on? What time does the party start at your place?
Oh, it's non-stop. It's non-stop. Yeah, I get very few opportunities to record. And Gabe, what was your thing? Sorry, I've spoken over you. Well, I'll come back to you. Gabe, go on.
Well, I didn't do any research on the World Cup with the intention of boycotting it, so I made no predictions on who was going to win, other than on the day England were playing, hoping England would win. So I didn't make. The honest answer is I didn't make a prediction because I was so overcome with apathy over the tournament as a whole because of how morally corrupt it is. So unfortunately, that's not a fun answer, but that is my answer.
Yeah, that's not a fun answer, but. So I don't think Argentina are going to win it anymore.
I've no idea what I mean. Given that they've just lost to Saudi Arabia, I would assume probably not. I think I would imagine it's probably going to be England or France that win it. That's the cutting edge prediction you're going to get.
So are you saying if we beat France in the quarterfinal, we've got it won?
Absolutely, yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Awesome. It's coming home. Beat Iran, we can beat anyone. Go on, Will.
I was going to say, Spain for me, feel like, because they're a mixture of like brand new, really young talent and players who are just about to finish their international careers. They feel like a team who maybe in the next tournament, in the Euros in Germany, might be the one to watch. I think they are very good. Obviously, they won 7-0. You can't really deny that. But they just feel like a team that's going to be better in the future than they are currently. Having just watched it while we're doing the podcast, Brazil look like Brazil, which is a bit concerning. For me, I'm inclined to agree with Gabe here. Partly, having seen everyone, France have impressed me the most, which you should be surprised. They're the world champions, really, and they won the Nations League as well. But the way they played that second half against Australia was probably the best I've seen any team in the tournament play this so far. And that's including England, which I know is a bit sacrilege, but...
Well, yeah, to fill you in with some context, Gabe, most people either predicted Brazil or Argentina to win, and Argentina hadn't lost a game since 2019, but then, of course, they have now lost.
I'm a little bit surprised from afar about that because I'm only going off because I think finding out more recently, Argentina had been on quite a long unbeaten run before the tournament, but I've not been impressed with. You go back to you'd have to go back to probably the 70s and 80s to find the last time Argentina had a genuinely. I mean, actually, I tell a lie. The 2006 Argentina side played really good football. I remember watching the Cambiasso goal at Germany 2006. So I suppose they were really good then. But then, more recently they've not been as good, and there's been a bit of mutiny in the camp. So I'm kind of surprised that they've kind of come back in the eyes of many. And then Brazil, they've not won it since 2002, and probably had a bit of a drop off as well. Maybe they think they've got a resurgence. So again, I'm not speaking with an awful lot of first-hand knowledge, so I'm very conscious of that. But it does feel like Brazil and Argentina in recent tournaments haven't been able to recapture former glories.
Well, Brazil, that was the last time a non-European side won it, was 2002. Since then, it's been all European sides that have won it. It was, Italy, then Spain, then Germany, then France.
I sort of wonder whether, like Germany and I suppose Spain and Italy, like they've all had their players playing in the domestic leagues, whereas I guess for Brazil and Argentina, the top players there have probably gone to Europe, certainly in the last sort of 20, 30 years. So whether that's kind of interrupted with the quality of teams and the synergy, I don't know, but maybe that's been a factor as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's a little bit like Italy, and Italy, of course, haven't qualified. Italy hadn't
But by
lost
the
the
way,
game.
just on that, I've got to make the point that so many people were saying that, in the 2021 Euros, if England had had a world-class manager like Roberto Mancini in the dugout who was able to make proactive changes rather than Gareth Southgate, we'd have won that thing, which might be true. But then Italy go and not qualify for the next World Cup. I don't know.
Macedonia knock 'em out.
I do find that quite funny.
It is very funny, but I suppose as Italy didn't qualify, Argentina are sort of the next best thing because they won the Copa America last year, and just like Italy before the Euros, they hadn't lost in a while. So, but then I think they've disproven that. They do also have Lionel Messi, so that is a big reason. So yeah, I think it's not quite wide open because France are very strong in Brazil, but Brazil haven't won in such a long time, and France are yet to play Denmark, and they lost to them twice in the Nations League. I know at the start of the podcast I said the Nations League doesn't mean anything, but France could yet still lose to them. So I suppose if Brazil don't win like usual and France lose to Denmark, then it is England's to win or to lose. So it's coming home. Anyone else have anything else I want to talk about the World Cup? Otherwise, I'll get Gabe Sutton to talk. Oh, sorry, Gabe, to talk about the best EFL players you've seen at the World Cup so far, if that's a thing. I suppose it isn't if you haven't watched any games.
The England game, really, but I think the thing I wanted to talk about, Nathaniel, was I do want to sort of go back to the decision from the FA, and we're talking about the bulk of the blame going to FIFA when it comes to keeping politics out of football and showing no support or compassion to the LGBTQ plus community. But I also think that doesn't mean that all the other people involved are completely absolved of responsibility, because I think it's a collective thing that have led to this that has led to this situation, and I think a lot of people have been sort of complicit in this as well. So from my point of view, I think it was an absolute, first of all, the FA tried to get away with the most half-baked thing that was symbol that wasn't really a pride flag, that was just trying to get away with it, just a way of trying to say, if there are any complaints about the ethics of it all, hey, look, oi, stop complaining because we've got this thing. They didn't even do that because they were concerned about getting booked. And it's not really a protest, is it? Because if it's a protest, you take the consequences and continue to doing it, because the importance of the point is more important than the importance of your own convenience and what works for you as an individual. So I think it was an absolute disgrace how the FA have handled this. I feel that the players have to take some responsibility for this as well, and I think the whole thing's been handled very badly from a number of different parties.
Absolutely, I couldn't have put that better myself. I definitely agree. And well, last thing, as we are usually to Hull and back, and AD is you're a Hull fan. There is a bit of Hull City news. Ben Warner is Hull City's new something or other analyst. He's the backroom member of staff that we've been waiting to have announced. So, AD, do you know anything about what an analyst does at Hull City, and is it useful?
Well, we've got to hope so, haven't we?
We've lost you. We've lost you, AD. I'm sure you're making a very good point. We can't hear you. I'm assuming he's saying you're back. Go on.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I was just saying Liam Rossini has really sung the praises of him. So he's got to bring something good to the fore. He's been with Liam at Derby, and he's obviously worked. He said that he's worked in the youth setup for a few years, and then he's sort of gone more first team in the last 2 to 3 years and started doing the analyst work for that. Liam obviously holds him in high regard, and it's more, there's a lot more of this analysing in the modern game of football, isn't there? And Liam's bought into that quite a lot. So, I think it's part of the jigsaw that Liam wants to put together to try and get Hull hopefully back to the Premier League, and hopefully he's gonna do that. They've got some time away together in Turkey now, haven't they? They've got a couple of friendly games across there, time to look at the players, try and put some of this work that they're trying to get into on the training pitch and bring that into games. So hopefully it's a good move for us. I think it's one of them where time will tell, isn't it?
Absolutely. I hope so. And yeah, it's coming home. Football's coming home. And then after that, not England, Hull are going to get promoted with the help of Ben
Well,
Warner's
you've
fantastic
definitely fucking
analysis.
ruined it now, haven't you?
Yeah, well, look, if I keep jinxing it, maybe that'll,
Cancel
do
itself
something.
out.
Perhaps. But I think we've mentioned pretty much everything we want to. Thank you very much to our two fantastic guests. We'll certainly see if you want to come back on again. So that's AD Wright of West Hull FM and Gabe Sutton of EFL Debate. And thank you again to our regular Will, who is now acting as the non-England correspondent for the World Cup, or our coverage of the World Cup. So I think that's it. We'll be back again very soon to talk about hopefully another fantastic, thrilling England victory and some other surprises around the World Cup. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back very soon.